Well, it's time to do 55 minutes of business. That's what we do on Business Incorporated. Welcome to the program. Here's what we have prepared for you. In Zambia, that country is set to introduce new banknotes, and that will be in March. Zimbabwe is targeting 1 million licensed vehicles. And in Nigeria, we look at Valentine packages and your spending today and the weekend. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Let's do 55 minutes of business. We begin from the global space. Tell you that gold prices held steady on Friday and were poised for a seventh weekly gain as United States President Donald Trump plans to impose reciprocal tariff on every country taxing U.S. imports. We know that he's having conversations on putting that on hold until after April 1, set up a committee to deal with that. Let's see how gold and the other metals are reacting. So it's on change for spot gold at $2,929.05. For U.S. gold, it's up 0.4% at $2,957.40. Spot silver is 0.4% in the green, $32.50, and platinum is 0.3% in the green. Palladium is also up 0.6%. On Thursday, we know that President Trump tasked economics team with devising plans for reciprocal tariff on every country that's taxing the United States import. Seems China, Spain, China, Japan, and South Korea, as well as the EU are top on the list. We'll be talking about the EU's aspect later on the program. Well, we're still talking from the global space now. Oil prices rose on Friday and we're poised to end 3 weeks of decline, buoyed by rising fuel demand and expectations that the United States plan for global reciprocal tariffs would not come into effect until April, giving more time to avoid a trade war. Look at the numbers right now. 0.55% was more volatile than this in the morning. We had more than 1%, in fact, almost 2% for Brent in the morning, but now we see 0.55% up, but still retaining the $75 level. WTI is also up 0.42%, not as volatile as it was in the morning, $71.59, and it's all about President Donald Trump, the reciprocal tariff, which could cause trigger of a trade war globally, and the impact, all of that working together to determine investor sentiment around that. Now we come to Nigeria and tell you that the Nigeria Mainstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, that's the NMDPRA, has shut down 7 fuel stations in Kogi, and it's for violations. This was disclosed by the NMDPRA coordinator for Kogi, Ogbe Godwin, during a briefing in Lokoja, the state capital. 7 of the stations are reportedly sealed for under-dispensing of petroleum products. And the NMDPRA coordinator warns that the agency would no longer tolerate illegal operations in the state, urging marketers to comply with regulations by registering their businesses with the federal government or face legal action. Now to the Central Bank of Nigeria. They're assuring customers of Keystone Bank's stability following the court order that the shares of Keystone Bank Limited previously held by shareholders be forfeited to the federal government of Nigeria. The regulator acknowledges that the development may have triggered customer concerns expectedly, however, underscores that the stability of the banking system and the safety of depositors' fund remain top priority for them. In a statement signed by the Acting Director of Corporate, Mrs. Hakamat Sidi Ali, the CBN clarifies that the court order merely reaffirms the Central Bank of Nigeria's prior decision to take over the management of Keystone Bank Limited in January 2024 following a change in its leadership. Customers are encouraged to contact Keystone Bank's customer support or visit any Keystone Bank branch for inquiries or concerns. Now, in Lagos, the state government has announced an 18% fare increase for the bus rapid transit, that's the BRT system, and other regulated public buses under the bus reform initiative. That's effective from Monday, which is February 17. The Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, Lamata, disclosed this in a post on their X handle. According to Lamata, the fare adjustment is driven by rising operational costs faced by bus operators. And more of corporate now. Dangote Sugar Refinery has revealed that it has invested $700 million in production. That's in an effort to end raw sugar importation into the country. According to the company's president, Mr. Aliko Dangote, was speaking at the ongoing 14th Gateway International Trade Fair in Abeokuta, the capital of Ogun State. Dangote Sugar Refinery PLC is accelerating its sugar backward integration plan to boost local production. Dangote further disclosed that the group has commenced the export of fertilizer to countries including France, the United States, Mexico, Uruguay, Argentina, and several African nations such as Benin Republic, Zambia, and Cameroon. Now it's February 14, it's Valentine's Day around the world. Let's look at spending patterns here in Nigeria for this Valentine. So SBM Intelligence, they did take out some research and meets with some Nigerians in different parts of the country to find out what's the spending pattern. And they found that for this year, 2025, consumers are budgeting between 51,000 and 100,000, while high-end purchases is beginning from 500,000. And then for gift ideas, a lot of people are looking at food, perfumes, jewelry, and watches. This remain popular. Nigerians are spending more this year on Valentine's Day. Last year, it was just about 2% of their respondents that were willing or ready to spend on Valentine's Day. Today, they say they have found about 5% of their respondents. And then when we see 85.6% of the respondents are going to spend time with family and loved ones. 33% are ready to spend between 51,000 and 100,000. 25.5% to spend about 10,000 and 50,000. 17% to spend between 101,000 and 200,000. 11.7% to spend about 201,000 and 500. And then the spending pattern we see there, top on the list is food and perfumes, then followed by jewelry, roses, watches, female shoes, wigs, and chocolates. So there you have it. Now let's delve closer into this with the head of research at SBM Intelligence. We have Bumi Bailey. Bumi Bailey, happy Valentine's to you. Welcome to the program.
Happy Valentine's Day. I wish you the same. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And so you have this finding that more Nigerians seem to be ready to spend more money and time, more intentional about this year's Valentine compared to last year. Does it mean that the purchasing power is better this year compared to last year?
Okay. No, it's actually purchasing power has not really improved this year. I mean, inflation is still at double digits and at record high levels. I mean, in 2016, inflation was at single digits, about 9%, before it grew to an average about 23.2%. So it's really, purchasing power has not really improved. So actually, what is really driving this spend, or more or less like higher purchases from consumers, is that from our survey, we actually discovered that what was actually influencing their spending decisions was more or less social media. I mean, let me explain that right now. We have a lot of retailers, like over the years, and online vendors that actually use the social media, like as a tool to actually display their products. And how they're actually displaying these products is through combo deals. When I mean combo deals, deals that actually create value, more like 4-in-1 packages, 3-in-1 packages. For example, you could see on Instagram, right, is a type of a platform, social media platform, right? They would use, maybe you have flour, you have chocolate, you have wigs, you have wristwatches, maybe within a budget of maybe 50K or 60K, or 50K or 60K. It is still higher compared to last year, but it's actually creating value. So what is actually driving the higher, more or less like the excitement, or for Nigerians to spend more, is more from the retailers, which are actually, being innovative and coming up with strategies to actually, with using combo deals to entice consumers to be able to spend more. So that is what is actually happening.
Vendors and businesses have become more creative, I guess.
Yes.
So, but we cannot say that things have improved, and we can expect that to spill over to other parts of the economy, yes?
No, we can't really say that. No.
All right. Anyway, thank you so much for that, helping us to sharing your findings at SBM Intelligence, and also helping us to understand the pattern, spending pattern. Bumi Bailey, Head of Research at SBM Intelligence.
Thank you.
All right, so there you go. I know that some information may be useful to you today or later on this weekend, but there's another one that I know is useful to you and to everyone. That's the issue of infrastructural development and having a sustainable infrastructure development. This afternoon, we'll be looking at the role of engineering. Sometimes we seem to forget them, but here I have with me the president of the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, that's Coren, Professor Sadiq Subairu Abubakar. Good afternoon, Prof, and thank you so much for joining us right here. And then also Engineer Bikunle Ogumbayo, the Chairman of Lagos State Steering Committee of Coren. Thank you so much, Engineer. Both engineers, anyways, that's why you're part of Coren. So when you look at the issue of infrastructural development, it seems a lot of time we talk about money, funding. Let me start with you, Prof. Where do you find yourself? I don't think we've been hearing a lot about you, and I know that recently you did say that it's because the failure of infrastructure is because of poor regulation. But I bet a lot of Nigerians will say it's because of funding. That's why we're not seeing the development that we need in the area of infrastructure.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewers. I believe this subject is a very topical one to talk about sustainable infrastructure development in an economy like that of Nigeria. There are so many, I think, perspective one will look at it, but I think basically what we need is the funding, as you know, has been one of the key challenge, because we really don't have the clear institutions in this country, even though there have been attempts to have the infrastructural bank, the industrial, all these institutions that are supposed to make infrastructure development seamless and very easy to handle. Now, this we don't have, and up to this moment, we've been trying to have the normal funding regime that we know, budgetary base and what have you. And no nation, get it right with that, because it's going to be a very snail speed approach. And often, it's inflations and what have you, the economic downturn, in the global space will come and impede, a very strategic infrastructure development project. This is on one hand. On the other hand, we have, from our own perspective as engineers, of course, Coren, is the seeming weak regulatory framework and the legal system that is supposed to one, and the investors, for them to know that there is a framework that will protect their own, their own investments, and on the other hand, to encourage, the homegrown expertise and the homegrown capacity for us to be able to develop our infrastructure, like every other nation that we do it. You often, and thirdly, and I must say that the lack of deliberate patronage of Nigerian capacity to be able to handle infrastructures, compared to the multinationals.
Isn't that because of the lack of confidence in the quality? I think I'll give that to. Isn't that because of the lack of confidence in the quality of the Nigerian skills or personnel? Wow. Isn't that why?
No, it's not. It isn't. Well, in the last 50, 60 years, Nigeria has produced hundreds of thousands of engineering personnel, and they've all done very well. What has happened and what is happening, that there is this perception that if I give it to a Nigerian, he will not be as forthcoming as somebody who comes from outside, who doesn't have any reason to want to make things work well. That person is going to come in, and then just going to go away and with his money in his pocket. We must, number one, begin to build confidence in our own people. We cannot build confidence when you deny them of opportunities. You cannot build competencies if you do not give them a chance. So it's a chicken and egg situation.
So which one will come first? Who's going to take the risk first?
It's not a risk. That is where regulation comes in. If you have the proper regulatory environment, nobody is going to do a silly.
Who's supposed to ensure? I mean, Coren is a regulator. So,
correct.
Because I wanted to say, I mean, you're here. So what stops you from ensuring that the regulatory environment is what it should be to win the confidence of both Nigerians and international markets?
Well, I want to remain with Engineer Gumbayo. It's not the issue of confidence. I believe, Executive Order 5 that was ascended by the middle past president. This is one of the key issues in that Executive Order 5, that some percentage of Nigerian infrastructure project must be, and in every country globally, that is the strategy that any nation must adopt. You see, the opportunities is what gives the indigenous, companies the confidence to be able to. We have done 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the 70s, 80s, we have companies that are Nigerian based that were executing mega projects in Africa. Nigerian based companies, not in Nigeria, globally. And then we lost that because of the reduction in patronage. And so the Executive Order 5 that came, when you have, you see, we need to be given, that is what we call the white paper that was approved by PEG during Obasanjo's government. And then that was reapproved by Jonathan's government, that we must have consortium, mega consortium that are Nigerian based, to be able to take the advantage of that scale, economic of scale, when you have mega projects. You see, usually, like he said, what we don't seem to have is when you have a mega big project, the mega ones will come outside the country. And then you find ours, when you want to now ask them to put down, delay, the capital lay down, they don't have that capacity. So it's not about confidence. I can guarantee you, a lot of our Nigerian engineers have gone outside and did very well. And maybe what I would just say...
Did they come back? Because Japan is also a factor here, especially for the young ones.
No, let me say, you see this, that Nigeria is the second country in Africa that has been admitted into the World Engineering Alliance, what you call the World Washington Accord, meaning every Nigerian that is an engineer or a technologist that is certified and registered by Coren can go and work anywhere in the world. The only country that has attained that in Africa is South Africa. Nigeria has gotten that 2023 in Taiwan. So the issue of competence, everybody knows our capacity and confidence in terms of engineering. Back home here, it is this issue of patronage that is really hitting, the local capacity.
So, Engineer Gumbayo, what do we do about it now? We know the problem.
You asked about the handicaps that Coren has had about regulation.
Yes.
You know that up till, I think it was the 2024 revision to the Act that sort of Coren could identify somebody who had done something wrong and do a report. But Coren, as a regulator, could not try that person. He could not prosecute that person. Had to pass it to the police or to the Ministry of Justice.
I think that's the norm for a whole lot.
But the problem...
Because it's the police that is supposed to enforce.
But the problem there is that it took ages for people to be... And not only that, we could only actually deal with people who are on a register. So if a non-builder, a non-registered builder goes and builds something and it collapses, there's nothing that Coren can do about it. But that has changed.
Yeah.
We now have
2018.
A new act that enables us to be more proactive, and this is where the regional steering committees come in. That new structure enables us to be closer to things that are happening, and because we are closer to things that are happening, we are able to deal more quickly with such infractions.
Okay, all right, Engineer Gumbayo, just hold your thoughts there, because I would like to know what you want to do with this empowerment that you now have. But first of all, our viewers who are watching us on DSTV, you're still in Lagos, but now you're going to where the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure is commissioning the Chief Yesufu Abiodun Niru Akiogun Road. It's an alternative route to Admiralty Circle Plaza in Lekki at Abudu Smith Street in Etiosa local government area. That's where our DSTV viewers are going to, but other platforms, we are still here on Business Incorporated. So I'm just, Engineer Gumbayo, I want to know, so now you have the power.
Yes.
What are you doing? What do you plan to do?
Thank you very much. There are three aspects to this. There's regulation, there is education, then there's training. When I say training, I mean continuous professional development. I'll start with that, is that once a man or a woman has graduated from any engineering-based college, that's just the beginning. You must now go through a tutelage. That tutelage then means that that person will have to continuously train him or herself, and in that process will gain knowledge. And if there's an infringement, the law that sets up Coren also allows that person to be disciplined. So we are going to be more
even
active.
If the person is not a member of Coren?
As long as that person, no, even if it's not. What the law now says is that your own people, the engineering personnel, and I use the word engineering personnel because it's not only engineers, it's technologists, artisans, everybody in the engineering field, family fall under the Coren regulation. So if any person that does something, there are two things. You can either be prosecuted criminally or civilly, or you can take away his license to practice. That can happen. But anybody else would be prosecuted in conjunction with the proper authorities within the states. So we do have the power now to do things. We can be more proactive, and that is what we're doing. That's what we're setting up now.
So, Prof, what difference can we expect now? We're talking about sustainable development infrastructure. Coren has been empowered. What difference can we expect, and how soon? You know, we're Nigerians, we're very patient.
Yeah, I like this. We now have, let me elaborate a little bit from what my senior said. We now have a tribunal. We have been empowered and it has been established. The tribunal means a tribunal that tries our registrants that are culpable. And like he said, we have categories. The engineers, the technologists, the technicians, the craftsmen, and the artisans now have been added. We have this tribunal and we have an investigation panel we now have deployed and repositioned ourselves with whistleblowers all over the country in the 36 states. We now have what we call intelligence gathering and a surveillance team. And then we now have cascaded down the authority of the council that is for over 50 years, been centrally placed. We now have decentralized it. We now have 6 regions, and we have what we call regional steering committees that the council has donated their authority and powers to. Engineer Gumbayo is one of the chairmen of the regional steering committee based in Lagos, meaning there will be, Coren is more responsive. Immediately we have infractions through our whistleblowers, through the intelligence gathering, through the surveillance. The regional steering committee under his, by the way, Engineer Gumbayo was a former Coren president. So all our regional steering committees in the several regions are being led by either Coren, past Coren president or past Coren registrars. And then with the composite of experienced and current council members who are residing in that region. So we have, more intersection with the grassroots. We have more opportunity to be able to investigate any infraction, and then quickly the tribunal will now take off. And like you said, the tribunal has the capacity, the authority to take away your lancing, to displace you. Now the other side, which he started, is that for a non-registrant of Coren, like what you call the quacks, if you are not,
you say anybody who is not in Coren is a quack?
Yes.
yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
if you go and practice any of the engineering practices
Without being licensed.
without having the certification and the license of Coren, even if you are an engineer, you are a quack, technically. And if we discover you, you are culpable, and we are going to punish you according to the law. That normally the regulatory councils, not only Coren, have been given this subsidiary opportunity to make subsidiary laws. And that law that we normally do is what we call regulations that we gazette. So if we go anywhere and we find, for example, an engineer who is maybe 30 years graduate, and he's not registered with Coren and he's practicing, and we apprehend him, he's a quack. We are going to treat him not as a registrant, but we'll carry him to the police. We have MOUs with ICPC, with civil defense, with immigration, because we have been given the teeth to bite in terms of enforcement. Now, this is what we have in each state. We have what we call state technical committees, which the governors come and inaugurate. Now, these technical committees are the ones that are policing any infrastructure development where you are having, sharp practices or you're having quackery. I'm sure you are very conversant with this, incessant building collapse. Everybody say building collapse. Now, in that case, the practitioners are many. The engineers are there, the architects are there, the builders are there, the quantity surveyors are there. So we came and formed what we call FORBEN, the Forum for Practitioners in the Built Environment, so that we'll be able to do this enforcement and this regulation more effectively.
All right. Well, now you have the teeth to bite.
Well, just to answer your question, I know you are still calling about this infrastructure. Infrastructure deployment and procurement and delivery can only happen where you have competent people. And that is where Coren is at now. That we are going to ensure that our own practitioners are competent.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Sadiq Zubiru Abubakar, President of Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, that's Coren, as well as the Chairman, Lagos State Steering Committee, Engineer Bikunle Ogumbayo. Thank you so much. Use your teeth well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll head to the market, still here on Business Incorporated. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Welcome back to watching Business Incorporated on Channels Television. We head to the markets now, where the NGX is still looking really, really, really good. You see, 109,000 is where we are at. 109,194, and that's up intraday 0.02%, while South Africa has a higher gain intraday. But I mean, we're still proud of where we are, 109 compared to 88,000. But they've also been doing good. They've gone in the last couple of weeks from 82,000 now at 88,800.19. Other parts of Africa, Egypt is also positive 1.13% in the green, but close, doesn't trade on Fridays. And for Thursday, NSE, that's the Nairobi Stock Exchange, seems to be gaining grounds, recovering is more like it, because it's passed this before. So it's at 130.16 at the close of Thursday. And then for the Middle East, it's mixed colors, from Dubai, which is positive at 0.93%, to Abu Dhabi, negative at 0.33%, to Saudi Arabia, which is slightly down 0.01%, and then Qatar. Qatar is a bit comfortable at 0.22% in the green, 10,619.08. Now, President Trump is still moving the market, first in the United States and then around the world. We see that after the Trump delay, he said about the new tariff, setting up a committee that's supposed to bring up ideas on how to counter some of those tariffs. We see that the Dow is down 0.21%, 44,718. S&P is also down 0.05%. NASDAQ is also in the red, not so heavy, down there, 0.03% this afternoon. Moving over to Asia now, we see, beginning with the Nikkei. Nikkei is in the red. The Kospi is really, really, really in the green, 3.69%. That's what we see for Kospi there, South Korea. And then we see for Hang Seng also in the green, 0.31%. Look at other parts of the Asian markets. See Shanghai and Nifty. Nifty is still struggling and unfortunately has gone down to that 22,000 level. Wow. I mean, the market has been getting hit for a lot of trading sessions now. So we see it is still retaining the red color, unfortunately, at the close of Friday's trade. That means it's going to be a red weekend for it. Now, South Korea, we see that the country's seasonal adjustment unemployment rate hit 2.9%, easing from a 3-year high. That's a major driver of that more than 3% increase that we saw on the all share this afternoon, and that's in the month before it. It was in a 3-year high of 3.7. Now we see it at 2.9. That's the unemployment data, giving some optimism to the investors there. So I mean, if you're wondering why we have that much, but President Trump is still news around the world, even in the EU. So even though we have he's pausing the reciprocal tariff, creating a committee to deal with it. We'll see what ideas they come up with. At least we have until April. We know that the EU is part of the target, and so they're also planning that. So they're looking at what could happen, what ideas could come from there, and that would affect the European Union, the bloc as a whole. We have Chiponda now joining us for this. But before we get to that, I wonder how Valentine is in Berlin. Hi, Chip. Happy Valentine to you. How's it there? Is there a lot of buzz about Valentine in Germany?
It's not as big as in, say, in the US or in the UK, but I think there's a lot of people making romantic plans. I was just speaking to a couple of colleagues this week, and some of them are, going with their loved ones to restaurants and that sort of thing. So that's it's a special day here as well, but not as big as in the US or the UK.
Okay, but here in Nigeria, I can tell you that it seems to be a bigger deal in 2025 compared to 2024. We just saw a research where, more people are planning to spend money and spend time this weekend, in spite of whatever the economy says. But anyways, let's get to the Trump business. Now, what's the take on this Trump's latest tariff announcement?
Well, despite the fact that this is U.S. President Trump's broadest tariff announcement so far, there is, of course, some relief, as you mentioned, that the punitive measures won't be taking effect immediately. So, of course, the U.S.'s biggest trade partners, the EU included, have between now and April 2nd to perhaps come to another arrangement with the White House, Ini. And the fact that it won't be limited, though, to reciprocal tariffs is a concern for Europe. Trump also wants other trade barriers to be included, like value-added tax and agricultural subsidies. And there will also be additional tariffs for vehicles, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals. But this is, of course, not just about trade. The White House also wants the EU to change regulations that target big tech firms from the US here in the EU. So Trump is also putting pressure on the bloc in other ways.
So when you say putting pressure, where's the pressure coming from? What's the pressure?
Well, European leaders were blindsided this week by the US president. On Wednesday, Trump said that he had spoken to Russia's President Vladimir Putin about ending the war in Ukraine. And until now, the United States, under the Biden administration, had made it very clear that Brussels would be part of any negotiations regarding a peace plan for Ukraine. But that is not what President Trump plans to do. Instead, he is positioning his country to negotiate the terms of a Ukraine peace plan with Russia. And if the EU is not at that table, then the bloc would be left with whatever terms are agreed on by Washington and Moscow. And President Trump has made it very clear that the EU should pay for the lion's share of rebuilding and securing Ukraine after a peace settlement. And that could cost the bloc an additional $3.1 trillion over the next 10 years, according to one estimate by Bloomberg Economics. But perhaps we will get to see, of course, how the EU may respond this weekend. Today, the Munich Security Conference begins, and many EU leaders are there, and so are US Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Now, the US delegation is expected to meet with Russian representatives to talk about the war in Ukraine. So the rhetoric coming out of that conference this weekend could help provide a hint into what's next for EU-US relations.
Yeah, well, honestly, Chip, now I understand that pressure. That's a huge pressure that could trickle down to taxpayers and everything in the country. Well, we will see what comes out of that this weekend. But let's head to the markets now. How are the stocks looking?
Well, European shares are on track for their 8th straight week of gains. Now, the Stocks Europe 600 is up more than 8% since the start of the year, and it is trading slightly higher today. It was trading about 0.1% a few moments ago, and luxury stocks were up after French luxury group Hermès reported an 18% rise in fourth quarter sales. Now, Hermès shares rose 4.2%, and other luxury goods stocks were up between 1 and 2%. And Germany's blue chip index, on the other hand, the DAX, is trading 0.23% lower. And that, of course, comes after it broke its all-time record highs this week. So it has been doing very well. Now, of course, markets appear to be taking Trump's latest reciprocal tariff announcement in stride. Investors believe the fact that they won't take effect until April means that they may very well be a negotiating tactic that the White House is deploying. So they are focusing more on that news, that positive news that the US and Russia could work together to end the war in Ukraine. And that's what they've been focusing on. So hence the positive sentiment on the markets, Ini.
Yeah, well, it seems that end of the war is having different impacts on different sides of the war. But thank you so much, Chip, and do have a great weekend.
Likewise, Ini. Thank you.
We'll come back to Africa now, where the Bank of Zambia has announced the introduction of new banknotes and coins for the Zambian Kwacha that's set to be launched on March 31, 2025. This marks a significant update to the nation's currency, aimed at improving its security, efficiency, and aesthetic appeal. The updated currency will include the introduction of 500 Kwacha and 200 Kwacha banknotes, alongside a refreshed series of coins in denominations of 5 Kwacha, 2 Kwacha, and 1 Kwacha. Smaller units, namely 50 Ingwe, 10, 5, will also be issued as part of the revamped coin series. BOZ Governor Dr. Kenny Kalialia confirmed that while the designs of the new banknotes and coins have been updated, key features will remain unchanged. These include the alpha code for the Zambian and other features. And then away from Zambia to Zimbabwe, where the National Road Administration has set an ambitious target to license 1 million vehicles by the end of 2025. And it's all in a bid to boost compliance and enhance funding for road rehabilitation. Currently, about 850,000 vehicles are licensed, while Zambia's total registered vehicle population stands at approximately 1.7 million. However, Zinara estimates that only 1.2 million of these are roadworthy and eligible for licensing, highlighting a significant compliance gap. To achieve this target, Zinara is rolling out several initiatives, including expanding access to licensing services. The agency has introduced licensing services at toll gates, providing 24-hour access. Now let's talk about AI, which seems to be the theme around the world now and in business. Different businesses, starting with the small one. And we're going to be talking to the Chief Executive Officer of Velara, Sixtus Njoku, joins us from the UK. Hi, Sixtus. Good afternoon. We're talking about AI around the world. And sometimes they say it is even better for you to be using AI and not know you're using it. Now, talking about AI integration into businesses, what are the avenues available?
Thank you so much for your question. It's a very interesting question. And I think to ensure customer experience, successful customer experience, I think the most important thing businesses ought to think about is literacy. And that goes into looking at a lot of factors. I remember early devices that we utilized. There was a device during the time of Microsoft. Sorry, there was a felony. When businesses think about delivering success and customer experiences in AI, the first thing they would want to think about is literacy. And AI is relatively new to the general public, going by the advent of ChatGPT. It has been. There was a felony now. Sorry, I'll retract that. We have seen ChatGPT totally reintroduce AI to the world, and there has been a lot of technologies that are utilized, or businesses that are utilizing AI to increase customer experiences. And one example that comes to mind is spell check. Earlier devices that we use, when you type on Microsoft Word, it underlines with a red line, telling you that this word is spelled incorrectly. And further progressively, we saw Microsoft having gained some level of trust with its users, introduce autocorrect, which when you type, it automatically tells you, okay, I know exactly what you're typing, I know where you're going, and then it automatically corrects the statement you're trying to make. And then further down the line, we saw autocomplete, which we've experienced in our mobile phones. You're typing, and all of a sudden, it tells you, I know exactly where you're going, I know exactly where you're headed. It completes the statement or whatever right you're trying to make. So I think business is much more than the devices they are building or the infrastructure or software that they are building. Should also look at sort of educating their users and gaining their trust. Much more than the devices or the application we build. Businesses should look at educating them on a lot of things. One, ensuring that utilizing this technology or this application or this software, they are very sure that they will make the decision themselves and not the machine. And it goes into considering a lot of things, a lot of factors. One being that you have to be very sure. You have to ensure that the model that you're using in your device or your application You have to establish that trust so that um, uh, the content you're generating, is or has a certain level of accuracy. The model that you have utilized in your software or you've trained, you have to establish that trust in knowing that there is a certain level of accuracy that your customers can depend on. And so it's not so much about the technology that's being developed. It's also includes ensuring that your users have this trust and dependency in the fact that whatever device or whatever application you developed, they have a certain level of they have a certain level of ownership, and they have a certain level of decision making. So that would be a long more way into ensuring much more than building the best technology and then no one knows about it, or it's not generally adopted globally.
So interesting there, because I'm glad you started from the personal, where just a simple typing, you can use AI for your corrections and all of that, and then move to the more complicated or seemingly complicated use of it. Now, when you look at different businesses at different levels of development, from the startups, the small businesses, perhaps the medium ones, what would you say they should look out for in their decision of adopting AI into their different models of operation?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. There is a huge resistance to AI, and that's because of some of the regulation that's really guiding some of these industries. Take, for instance, healthcare and finance. And what we're doing in the UK is to ensure that you have a certain level of advantage. I think it's much more important for small businesses to be in the details, to understand exactly the problems that they're trying to solve, and to ensure that resistance is totally eliminated, even though progressively. And one of such areas is legal tech, the legal industry, and healthcare. So what we did here in the UK is myself and Ali, we decided to take on a job in the health industry to understand some of the inefficiencies in the health industry, and to be able to build the best solution for them. And oh my goodness, it's so inefficient. You cannot believe that some observations or some documentations are still done with pen and paper. So it's much more important for small businesses to understand the details of the problems that they are trying to solve, to build the best solution for them. And without doing that, there might be a bit of a challenge, because you might now be building based on what you've read on news articles about your problem or the problem you're trying to solve, without understanding in total the problem and how to attack it with the solution you have in mind.
All right, Sixtus, thank you so much for those tips. And I know this AI adoption comes with the risks and also comes with the benefits. So everyone has to be very cautious, before adoption. Thank you so much for sharing those tips with us. Chief Executive Officer of Elara, Sixtus Njoku.
Thank you.
All right, so I see some other stories from Africa now. We go to South Africa, where MTN Group has said that it's on track to turn off its 3G network in that country by the end of this year, 2025. Well, My Broadband this week reported that MTN has shut down its 3G in several Cape Town neighborhoods already. And I think we had this also in Nigeria. The publication reports that MTN informed certain customers in Cape Town about a pilot 3G switch off in January last year and began shortly after that. It explains that once the pilot phase is completed, MTN will assess the project before rolling out the 3G migration on a large scale. The 3G transition is scheduled to be completed by December 31, 2025. The Department of Communications and Digital Technologies outlined plans to phase out 3G back in September 2022. From there, we go to Egypt, where the government is looking to increase local wheat purchases from farmers by 11% to reach 4 million tons in the upcoming harvest season, and this starts from mid-April. And this Egypt's wheat planting season began in mid-November and will continue until the end of January. The harvest is expected to run from mid-April to mid-July, covering a total cultivated area of 3.1 million fidans compared to 3.2 million fidans, which was the number for last year. The government states that Egypt aims to import about 6 million tons of wheat this year. In 2024, the country's wheat imports reached a decade high of 14.2 million tons, and that's a 31% increase from the previous year. The government share of imports rose by 30% to 6.2 million tons. And then the government also reveals the plans for potential cooperation with Saudi Arabia and restructuring the holding company for food industries, that's HCFI, and expanding Saudi Panda retail chains in Egypt. Cooperation discussions are ongoing and will likely include 38 companies affiliated with holding company along with partnership retails. In Ghana now, an Accra-based manufacturing company, it's called Mohinani Group, have signed an agreement with the International Finance Corporation, and they have a loan that's to be used to support Polytank Ghana Limited, a subsidiary of the group, and Sonex Packaging. Each of the recycling plants is expected to produce 15,000 tons of recycled PET annually, with 90% of the raw material sourced from local small businesses involved in plastic collection. Let's see what's happening in the world of crypto now. We see BTC is green, but it's 97,000, 0.7 days. What a period it's been for Bitcoin. And of course, if it is for Bitcoin, it will be for altcoins and all of them. So we see Ethereum looking looking green, but when you look closer, it might be a good time for some investors or potential investors, but you really have to look closely. XRP is green. You know, we have a couple of reds, but we've seen better days, I guess we would say, in the market. But let's see the headlines now coming from crypto. We see Michigan is introducing a Bitcoin reserve bill. This is in the United States, where it's become the latest U.S. state to propose the strategic Bitcoin reserve bill, bringing the total of states moving crypto reserve-related legislation to 20. This should be good for the market, isn't it? In February 13, representatives from Brian Posthumous and Ron Robinson introduced the HB 4087 to amend the State Management and Budget Act to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We'll see what they do with that in the United States. And also, the Securities and Exchange accept to list XRP and Doge ETFs, and that's, of course, the United States. They've accepted the application of Grayscale to change its XRP and Dogecoin trust into ETFs, indicating a remarkable move that could make a change in its approach to crypto products. So a lot of activities going on around cryptocurrency in the United States, even though it's not coming directly from President Trump. Could it be that President Trump in the White House is encouraging some of this? Well, the agency proposed a regulatory notice looking for public input on the offered rule amendment for Grayscale XRP Trust under a rule known as the NY, that's the New York Stock Exchange Rule 8.02. And after some time, it requests for comment on Dogecoin Trust of Grayscale. Well, so there you have it. Some movements going on there, legislation going on, not as drastic as perhaps some people would have expected, but it, at least in the United States, we see some positive move there that may be good for the crypto market. President Trump has been busy with tariffs for now, so he doesn't really have an attention for this. But we'll see how this goes in the coming days. More states adopting Bitcoin for reserve, and we'll see how that grows. And more importantly, we'll see how Nigeria fits into all of that, all of the crypto adoption and all of that. But anyway, so that's where we're going to have to draw the curtains today on Business Incorporated. What a week it's been, and it ends with Valentine. I know you're planning a great weekend. I wish you the very best, but don't forget, too much fun, not so good. have more of rest because you have Monday to get back to work. Well, I'm Ini John McQuarrie. I'll try and make the most of the weekend also, but that'll be after the stock market reports. I'll see you tonight at 10. Bye-bye.